Come through, Queen. I wanna see ya. Come through, Queen.
Hi, everyone. It's Brendan, and this is Come Through Queen. So Dan has abandoned me once again. He's in Gay Paris right now at the Moulin Rouge, actually. But I'm really excited to introduce our guests. You know her from her podcast, Hot Takes and Deep Dives. Welcome to the stage, Jess Rothschild.
Hi, I love this podcast. I'm like a legit but also, Brendan, I'm like a legit Patreon member. Like, I'm all about the pre-show. I love the pre-show.
Oh, I love that you just did it with me, and we went pretty long. So
I told a pretty sick story.
Yeah,
about my own mental illness, not sick as in good, sick as in disturbing.
It was quite a surprise that you pulled that out, but I'm glad you did. I'm obsessed with your podcast.
That is so sweet.
Every time you have it, like, because, okay, your podcast, the format is sometimes you'll deep dive with, like, some of your buddies about various shows that you're interested in, that type of thing. But then sometimes you have these, like, really great interviews with all types of people, reality stars, like actors, comedians, that type of thing. And I just love the way that you question them. And I just love how, like, your sensibility comes out so well. Like, you have a really specific and interesting, like, point of view and, like, pop culture references that you, like, weave into all these conversations. Like, for example, like, from this, I know that you're, like, a really big Real World fan. You're a huge Rosie O'Donnell fan. Like, the L word comes up constantly.
Oh my God.
Madonna comes up constantly.
As Joel Kim Booster once said, talking about podcasting, he once said it on some show, maybe it was on Las Culturistas or maybe on something else, that, like, there are certain strands that you should always, you find your own strands, like, as a podcaster, and these are just the things that I have, like, am obsessed with, and so I mean, it's just, like, what I'm super into. I couldn't make it about something else.
No, it's wonderful because it's like, for me, some of my interests overlap in a big way. Like, Rosie O'Donnell was a big part of my childhood, for example. Yeah. And, like, other things I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like, I've never really watched that or listened to that, but, like, you have such a passionate perspective about that. What if I was talking about Madonna? I've never really watched that or listened to that. It's not about Madonna. But I just wanted to, like, go through a couple, probably, like, a list of, like, some of the interviews I've listened to recently and semi-recently.
This is so sweet, by the way. Like, this is so, like, I'm such a fan of you guys, and, like, I was so excited when you reached out to even, like, do this show. Like, I legit love you guys, and, like, just, like, I just want to say off the top, like, thank you. I think it's so sweet when somebody like you, like, says that they like what I'm doing, because,
of course,
not everybody says that you're doing great. So
no, it's like, I really genuinely, like, love the interviews you do. First one I wanted to mention, because I feel like she's somebody who we haven't heard from in a long time, yet you did this really big long format interview with her. It was probably like a year ago, I would say. Genesis from Real World Boston.
My queen. This is how I realized I was gay.
Oh my God.
No, not how I realized I was gay. This is what made me think it was okay to come out.
Oh, that's beautiful. I mean, like, truly, representation matters.
I didn't know where you were. I had no idea who you were about to pull. And that actually was Danny Roberts himself.
Oh, yeah.
Closed the deal on that one, because I had told him, like, Genesis is, like, my white knight, or, like, she is, like, the one, like, if I could interview anybody. And I had reached out, and she was like, I would love to. She's like, I just hate the sound of my voice. She's like, she goes, I won't do podcasts that, like, people I've known for 20 years in the industry. She's like, I just don't do them. And then one day, like, a year later, I think Danny worked on her for a while, and then out of the blue, she DM'd me and said, okay, I'm ready. Let's do it. And I, like, was like, whoa.
Also, like, relatable hating the sound of your own voice. I'm dreading having to edit this later because I hate the sound of my own voice. I had, as a kid, I was really into Roller Coaster Tycoon around the time that Real World Boston was on. And I remember me and my best friend at the time, we were both into coasters. We're both gay now. And
Shocking.
we like made a roller coaster, and it was like purple, and we named it Genesis because purple is gay. We named it Genesis after Genesis from Real World Boston. And I think, like, in one sense, like, two little boys around that age were like maybe making fun, but it's also like, no, we love Genesis.
I would maybe say that Real World Boston is my favorite in the entire canon, maybe even above New Orleans. New Orleans is maybe number, because I have rewatched Real World Boston. I mean, listen, partly because I was just so in love with Genesis, and like she was changing my life. But I have I had that all on like VHS that I would tape off MTV when they would marathon it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like shocked that you pulled Genesis.
No, Real World Boston was really important to me too, because also then I went to college at Emerson in Boston, and their house is now like an event space. So the
firehouse.
Yeah. So the a cappella group from my college would perform there. And I kind of had a crush on one of the guys in the a cappella group. So I would go to watch it all the time, which is like nerdy, but whatever. But it would be like fun because you're in the house from the Real World Boston.
That is incredible.
Okay. Continuing on with Real World, and he's already been mentioned a little bit, but Danny from Real World Homecoming, Real World New Orleans.
Mm-hmm. I love Danny Roberts. I mean, yeah, I mean, listen, he closed the deal on Genesis. So I've actually interviewed him twice. I interviewed him for the first time, like during the pandemic, you know, dark days of the pandemic when like everyone was just like doing any podcast.
Sure.
That was like the easiest time to book guests, by the way. It's some darker days right now. But and then I wound up interviewing again when he did Homecoming. I mean, ask me like, what can I tell you? I mean, I mentioned this in the pre-show that, I mean, we did kind of just do this Halloween thing together in New Orleans, which I talked to. If people want to listen to the pre-show, like, I love the Patreon, so like subscribe to your Patreon.
Do you think that he would ever pursue doing anything in the public eye, like really public eye again?
So I asked him not too long ago if I had a feeling that he was approached to write a book, like a memoir, and he wouldn't really confirm or deny. So I just flat out asked him, because like we're friends. So he was kind of like, yeah, like I know that I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know what shape that would really take, but I don't know that he wants to go back to like a corporate job the way he had been doing a corporate job for all these years. For the past, like, you know?
And like, if he gets the right publishers and like the right PR people he could have a major book tour, like a really huge, nostalgic, fun, interesting thing. Like him on The View would be so fun.
Oh my God. Well, you know what Melissa Beck wants to do? She wants to help co-write an oral history of the real world.
That would be incredible.
Yeah.
It should be done. Hello.
I know. Well, they already have the oral history of MTV. So like, this is just like one step over.
Exactly. Moving off Real World to Rosie O'Donnell. I loved your interview with her. How was she just to like talk to and like deal with and be with?
Exactly what you heard. I mean, she was literally in bed in the interview, like just like in a green hoodie. Like I have a little video of it, and like I have a little video on YouTube and on my Instagram, and it's just like I don't think I really had to edit anything out. And I do quite a bit of editing to make things like flow better.
Sure.
And it was very much like there was really no content that I had to edit out. She was like a dream. She was just like there was nothing where she was like, oh, I'm not talking about that. And I was asking like I genuinely wanted to know about Kelly Carpenter.
Yeah.
Like her partner when we were young. Like I'm sure you saw those tabloids.
The cruises.
Yeah, the cruises. Like, I didn't ask about the cruises, but I didn't know. I waited until the end to ask, like, if that was really upsetting or annoying to her when those tabloids really were outing her. That's how I
Yeah.
knew she was gay, and I knew who Kelly Carpenter was. And she wasn't like, I don't want to talk about, like, that was something I was nervous about. Because,
Mhm.
like, no, Howard Stern's not asking her
Yeah.
about Kelly Carpenter.
Exactly.
But that's what I care the most about, you know?
For sure. Yeah. I mean,
So,
just like everything about her is. Remember the revival of the Rosie O'Donnell show early COVID? That was the best. All
oh
the
my God.
technical difficulties.
Yes, I do. Wait, oh yeah, it was on Zoom.
It was on Zoom, and it was like people were like coming in and out, and it was like the producer kept on having to like come in and like be on screen to be like, oh, we're dealing with it. But it was like so fun to me.
Disaster.
To another funny lesbian,
Mm.
recently you interviewed Fortune Feimster, who I
Oh
like
my God.
love, who seems like the nicest person ever.
She was amazing. Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
It's so, that interview took me 2 years to get
Oh, really? Because she's so busy?
because she's so busy.
Yeah.
I have been following up. Like, there are some things that like happen like that, and a lot of this game is like following up.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really persistent. Like, I would send an email like every couple months for like 2 years, and then one day they're like, okay, we can do it today. Like, it's strange.
Yeah.
But she was amazing. And interestingly, I interviewed her. I used to be a writer for this independent lesbian website. I helped found this independent lesbian website in like 2008, 2009.
What was it called?
It's called autostraddle.com. It still exists.
How did I not know you founded Autostraddle? I know Autostraddle.
Well, no. I don't want to say I founded it. I was on the founding team. I was a writer. Yeah, like, so that's how I cut my teeth on interviewing and learned how to like reach out to publicists. I was a fucking nobody. I'm still a nobody, but imagine me 12 years ago, how much of a nobody I was. And I was booked.
You've always been somebody.
I've always been a nobody. And I was booking people, but Fortune that was before she was on Chelsea Lately.
Yeah.
So it's been so nice to sort of sometimes have these bookend interviews with people like Margaret Cho and Sandra Bernhard. I interviewed them for Autostraddle. They don't remember me, but like sometimes they'll be like, actually, when it's relevant to the conversation, like it was with Fortune, she was like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Because they were in totally different places. Like, a Fortune was not famous.
Exactly.
So I actually just watched her new special on Netflix. It's great.
Oh, I need to watch it. She was just on Jeff Lewis Live, which I embarrassingly listen to every day.
No, I don't miss an episode.
Oh yeah, it's my I love the drama of his weird life.
Can I tell you what he's doing? So I grew up on Howard Stern. Like, I've always been like a radio listener, and that translated into listening to podcasts. And he clearly was a huge Howard Stern fan because he's making all his staff characters, which is
exactly
what Howard did. And so it's amazing.
And there's apparently some big news for Radio Andy coming next week, which I think
I was going to ask you what you predict it's going to be.
I think it's a bigger role for Jeff Lewis, and I think it's like maybe Jeff Lewis gets his own channel or something under Radio Andy somehow.
Oh, wow. Like Jeff Lewis on like the Kiki Lounge?
No, just like programming, like having certain people maybe have their own shows like once a week, like a Megan or a Doug, or like Megan and Doug together, or like a show,
Shane. Shane could.
A show called Shout Out Shane, basically.
That's amazing. That's a great title for a show.
I know it makes itself. But I could go on and on about Jeff Lewis Live, which we won't bore people with. Matt Rogers, how was that interview?
Love.
Yeah.
I love him. Las Culturistas is my favorite. I think that is the best podcast that's out there. And I prefer the episodes when it's just the two of them.
Yeah.
The Culture Cat, right?
Literally, like on like one of my main text threads that like Dan is on, his husband's on, a couple other friends are on. We're always like talking about the new release of Lost Culture and like, is it good? Is it bad? Like like Dan's always like, I need a culture catch up. Like
those are the best episodes because they fundamentally are more interesting than any of the people they're interviewing.
Agreed.
So it was great. I mean, I love getting to talk about like Fire Island with him because like I go to Fire Island, like, and also he's from Long Island, and like, so I feel like we have all these like things in common. So it felt like I knew him, and he felt that, I think, that connection, because I established it very early, like, oh, like
For sure.
I'm from Long Island, Fire Island. So it was like love. I would love to interview him again. He was amazing.
He's great. Did you watch him on Celebrity Jeopardy?
I did. And I watched Joel Kim Booster, spoiler alert, win Celebrity Jeopardy. Yep. Wow.
I will say there's something about Matt Rogers whenever he gets a bigger microphone, like when he's on like Watch What Happens Live or Celebrity Jeopardy, it's like he knows he has a chance to do like a star turn, and he like always turns it out, I would say.
I told him in our interview that he gave the single best performance on Watch What Happens Live in the show's history. That was his when it was him and Karen Hugh.
Yep.
Best perform, and I think he's going back again. He said,
"Good,
yeah."
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna. You may be interested in this. I went to the taping of his Christmas special at Joe's Pub.
Fun! I can't wait to watch.
Phenomenal. Like these songs are legitimately catchy.
Incredible.
Yeah.
He's about to, I mean, like he's having his moment, but like he's about to have a bigger moment. You didn't go to Las Culturistas Live in Lincoln Center this summer, did you?
I didn't, but I was jealous that you guys did.
It was incredible. So if they ever do a live show again like that, everyone run, don't walk. Let us transition over probably to some Bravo news.
Yes.
You ready?
I am ready.
Okay, so Bethenny has a new podcast called RHOPs. And the concept...
Haven't heard of it. Tell me about it.
And the concept is she is revisiting classic episodes of Real Housewives with her celebrity friends. The first episode came out today, where she did Scary Island with Elizabeth Moss. First of all, thoughts on this concept, thoughts on this pivot. I think you have a lot of them.
Okay, so I actually... Well, I won't give my whole Bethenny journey, but I actually got into Housewives. The first thing I ever watched was Bethenny Ever After. So
that's random.
She was my entry point to Housewives.
Okay.
I never thought I would ever watch Housewives, and then suddenly I was in an environment and Bethenny Ever After was on. I was like, oh, this I can like vibe with.
Sure.
That was my entry point. So I have been a Bethenny like ride or die like ever since. And I recently, like with all the like insane makeup tutorials, I actually I muted her a few weeks ago, which if I'm muting her, like she's got big problems.
She's down bad. Yeah.
She's down bad. And I've dipped in and out of her podcast, which is so fucking horrendous. And this one is plagued with the same issues of terrible audio. Her voice, listen, she just doesn't have a voice for radio.
Yeah.
She's yeah, like it's just so grating. The title RHOPs, the name of the show alone is among one of the worst titles of a podcast, and there's a galaxy of horrible names that I won't name right here. It is, I don't know how they didn't go back to the well and like think of something better than RHOPs.
Yeah, I mean, like I've said it before, like I think all podcast names are bad, but RHOPs, like there's such an easy fix with like just take out the S and it at least sounds closer to Rewind than Rewives.
Or like rewatching the wives. I don't know what it is, but it's not Rewives.
This is very like Wine by Wives that Tamara and Vicky launched years ago.
I mean, this is iHeartRadio. It's clearly a direct this is a direct result of the success of Two T's in a Pod.
Yes.
A podcast that I just cannot believe exists and is this successful.
I listen to it.
I know a lot of people. I know a lot of people who listen to it.
And I've seen the behind the scenes. I saw in the press room at BravoCon, Teddy over in the corner.
Oh my God. I loved your BravoCon coverage, by the way. What I don't, and I listened to the first episode today. I like scrubbed through it and I listened to a bunch of it. I am very surprised that with iHeartRadio behind it, and they're clearly doing this huge media push and marketing push, why would they not send the guests like the Elizabeth Moss or the Jerry Springer, like Kevin Nealon? These are the upcoming quote unquote guests. Why would they not send them a little USB mic so at least we could hear the guest clearly?
I really don't get it. I don't understand. Also, the first episode was basically Bethenny monologuing and Elizabeth like saying a couple words here and there. Elizabeth Moss, like, what?
Here's the thing with, okay, the fundamental problem that I think I have with the show, or the concept of the show, is why do we care about the opinions of people who do not have the context for the situation that they're watching, like the episode? If they're not, the idea is that she's showing Housewives to people for the first time.
Yeah.
I think that's basically, so why do we care if they can't comment on like Dorinda's alcoholism or like Sonya's whatever? That they're not even going to get it.
Yeah, I will give it to Elizabeth, who was a fan of Housewives at some point, so like she has some of the context, which is good. But like, Jerry Springer, is he going to be able to like what? And Kevin Nealon is what, the guy from Weeds?
Yes. Well, he was also on Saturday Night Live.
Oh yeah, I know that too. Sorry. Oh, and you're a big SNL fan. Oh no.
Yeah, I am. Well, no, what? I'm not like I'm not married to Kevin Nealon.
Good point.
I mean, I don't care. But that's such a strange, like, who gives a shit what Jerry Springer has to say about the house? That's so weird.
Yeah. The other big part of it for me is Bethenny, since she's left Housewives, has like wanted to only shit on it.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's running back.
The hypocrisy, and this is going to creep into my freak of the week. Like I may have, this is part of my I don't think so, honey, my freak of the week. So I don't want to use all my gas here, but the hypocrisy is maybe the top of any hypocritical housewife.
Yeah.
In this case. I mean, do you want to share like the headline from the interview, or the headline of what she shared was basically that Sonia supposedly was going to be fired during one of the later seasons because she wasn't really bringing anything besides like the townhouse insanity. And what she was basically saying was that she saved Sonia's job because she was the one who pitted Sonia against Tinsley. So in the story, she's basically making herself the hero. I saved Sonia's job.
She also did with Alex.
Yes. Yeah. And it reminded me, so I went during BravoCon weekend. I didn't go to BravoCon, but I did go to Heather McDonald's live show.
Okay.
And in that show, she actually went on a pretty hilarious rant against Bethenny. And Jill Zarin, by the way, was in the audience. Okay. So that was just adding another layer to it. And in the live show, she threw up a definition of an altruistic narcissist, which basically points to how even like the Be Strong initiative, like, yes, it's a humanitarian effort, but it is inherently self-serving. Like if you look up the definition of an altruistic narcissist, it's like, I am sort of like the greater, it's putting yourself on like a godlike level. Like, I saved Sonia's job. I saved Alex's job. I'm saving Puerto Rico. It's not about like it's less about like the good you're doing and more about me. Yeah. It's like all in the key of me. So.
God, I miss the girl who was standing in a grocery store hawking muffins, you know?
It's so sick that I'm saying, like, for me to be saying this, like, I'm the big Bethenny fan. So, like, what's left?
It's like, it kind of reminds me of, like, Khloe Kardashian. Like, Khloe was our girl. Bethenny was our girl. And now they're like, completely different people. But I guess people change, and people should be allowed to change, but...
That's such a good analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to move on to some more like fun, just like a little news? So
yeah,
Ashley and Luke were in DC together, hanging out with Lindsay and Carl, and they did a TikTok, and that is fun.
I cannot believe how invested I am in the, or I can't believe how much I was like refreshing Instagram and like refreshing, because Luke is like to me a super creeper. Like, I am not into Luke.
Yeah.
And like Ashley Darby, I mean, this girl's judgment, like she like has never met a red flag she didn't love.
The good thing is that at least Luke is hot.
Oh my God.
They did a whole thing like on Radio Andy, I think this week, where people were calling and giving their opinions about Ashley and Luke, and a lot of people were making the point that they think that Luke is a creeper, and there's like evidence towards that if you watch Summer House and Winter House, obviously. And it's true, but it's like I think they're both just like using this moment for each other's, like they know it makes both of them more popular.
But I do believe that they are like sexually interested in each other.
Yeah, of course, they're both hot, so it's like get into it or whatever.
Yeah, like it totally makes sense. Like I'm totally into it, but I'm so embarrassed that I'm into it.
I know. And it's also like you wouldn't bring someone like this around to your friends necessarily this early, but it's like you're all on Bravo's paycheck, so you might as well.
What I thought was hilarious was at the end of they were all in DC and they went to all these like sports games, and Luke posted, like, I think it's so hilarious how they have to like they can't spring for like a hotel, like everything just has to be like an influencer like freebie situation. So like Luke posted about the hotel, and I was waiting to see like when Carl and Lindsay would post it, and like 3 days later, we just want to thank, of course it was the same hotel. Like,
do you know what hotel it was? As somebody who recently stayed at a bad hotel in DC, I'm invested.
Name it.
I mean, we stayed at the Moxie, and it was the smallest room I've ever been in.
It was not the Moxie. I hadn't heard of the hotel. But if you said they posted it, and I was I just thought, like, can't you just like spring for a hotel? Like, it's so funny to me.
It's wild. It's wild. So why don't we? Speaking of Luke and Lindsay and Carl, why don't we just like? I just want to hear your thoughts on this season of Winter House and like how you feel about all the houses in general.
Okay. I'm a huge Summer House fan.
Yes, the best.
Like, I think it's like maybe the best show on Bravo.
Well, you're a Long Island person, so it's like representation for where you're from, kind of.
but also it's great.
Yeah, it is really amazing.
It's really great. Particularly that COVID season was like peak television when it was
like Real World meets Summer House.
Mm-hmm.
I cried during that season actually, and Luke was the villain because remember when it was like Carl and Kyle defending the women and going to fight him?
Yep, the physical fight.
It was like, who ran out first? Was it Kyle who ran out first and Carl went after him to like back him up? I was like, that's friendship. Like,
ew, that's so funny. Okay. Winter House this season is better than last season.
Agreed.
It's not a great show. Like, it's not a good show, but it's more watchable to me than, say, Real Housewives of Salt Lake City.
Okay. Do you want to explain that?
Because I can get through an episode of it.
Yeah. That's a good explanation.
I can get through an episode of it, and I thought this week's episode was the best of the bunch with, like, they need to have the Toms in there more. Like, they need to combine everything together.
The Toms were a breath of fresh air.
Oh, my God.
I was like, I can't believe I like these two men this much. It's like, because they're reaching the lowest bar, which is like, they are cleaning up after themselves, where we have Craig who refuses to clean the house.
Don't you think? I think it's interesting how Paige clearly hates Craig.
I know,
but and it's like crying like to a man. Like, when are they going to break up?
Do you think we're just seeing the beginning of them, like the beginning of her hating him because they're spending the most time they've ever really consecutively spent together?
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I definitely don't think they're going to be in it for the long haul. I don't think they're going to be a Kyle and Amanda. But, oh God. Yeah. So, like, I guess, like, that's interesting to me. It's also interesting, like, wow, like, she chose him over Andrea. And, like, you could, like, sort of dissect that. It says a lot about Paige. But actually today and I don't know if this is true. It depends if we take Bravo and Cocktails as like a source of truth. According to Bravo and Cocktails today, they posted that Summer House, Real Housewives New Jersey, and Vanderpump Rules are all premiering the same week. They're going to be airing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, beginning February 6th.
Perfect. If that's true, perfect.
I love that. I love I love the idea of a Summer House and Vanderpump Rules like airing concurrently.
Yeah, and it's like a good mix with Jersey, and also like the timing for recording this podcast is good.
I know. I also had that thought as well.
I really want, and I have a prediction. I think next season of Winter House, we're going to have some of the family karma group mixed in, especially after BravoCon. Because every time, it feels like every time somebody goes on Watch What Happens Live and talks about BravoCon, people are talking about how they bonded most with like people from family karma.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mean, they're all around the same age group, and it's like, it would be fun to have Amrit and his husband join. We haven't had like queer people on Summer House in a while.
How do they not have any gay people in that house?
Well, I mean, it's like because all the gay people are on Fire Island or in P-Town.
I guess. I actually know of a gay influencer that like I'm sure you follow. He was asked if he would be interested. He didn't even like make it. He was sort of like, no, I'm not interested. But they were trying to like get, and I think they just like turned it down.
I mean, we had Steven the first couple seasons, but that ended really badly and made Steven look horrible because he had horrible behavior.
But going back to the Toms, part of the reason that I thought this episode was so compelling was like seeing Tom Schwartz. Like I could really relate to him. Like going, sometimes you can't even admit it like to yourself or to your friends that like you're going through this like very, very sensitive breakup. Like at least we're getting a human moment, like a real moment out of the show.
I thought it was interesting that his first like reveal was in a confessional on this show, and it's like that means we're probably going to get flashbacks to this show on Vanderpump Rules, which is like Bravo's really becoming like the Marvel Cinematic Universe with all the crossovers. It's crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I like it. And the final thought on Winter House is it's so hilarious to me how they keep flopping with the casting. Like it's it's unbelievable. But how are we not? And I know that like Lindsay and Carla are going to come for an episode, but like you bring Jason back in the house and we're not talking about that this is the guy that supposedly got Lindsay pregnant and she had been
hopefully we'll get to that.
I think they showed it in the preview, but I think it's really strange that he's just like happy-go-lucky and like we're not addressing this sort of like very important real thing yet.
I know.
It's just weird that they've been there already a few weeks. That's just weird to me. But
it's also like the culture of like all these people in this house, like you have to hook up with someone, like you have to fuck someone in who lives in the same house as you, which like I feel like that doesn't happen IRL necessarily.
It's interesting to me that suddenly Luke has a storyline and then they axe him.
I know.
Isn't that weird? How did he skate by an entire season of Summer House? Literally was not on the show, and then they put him in Winter House. It's weird.
Luke is wild, but hopefully not this upcoming season of Summer House, but the one after that, we have Ashley Darby entering the house.
I would kill for it.
I still always think about how Andy came to the Summer House last year, and they didn't put it in the actual show, but they released a clip like on BravoTV.com. That was really fun.
I love that.
Do you want to move over to Potomac?
Yeah.
Okay. This was a great episode, I think.
I love Potomac.
Yeah.
Potomac is, well, not much Housewives is on right now, but Potomac is like, I think by far the peak of like where we've been, like in the Beverly Hills, like Salt Lake, in the viewing options as of late. Like Potomac is by far the most watchable to me.
Exactly. The fact that we had a give us hope moment at the very beginning of the episode with Ashley and Candace like becoming friends and having like this great sit down moment where they talk about so many things.
Ashley saying that she's struggling with dating people because no one can compare to Michael. What
I know.
Is she talking about?
It's worms on the brain, like her going out with this like hockey player and then like being like he can't talk about aliens with me or something because like Michael Darby like is able to like talk about like interesting things like aliens. Like, what?
Wow, not to like boomerang it back to Luke, but wow, she has a type, another hockey player.
I know. That thought went through my brain as well. Candy like had to cancel her IVF because
Candy.
we're on a nickname basis. Candy Gal.
After you went to the show, right?
Yeah, of course I went.
Yeah.
So Candy Gal and I know each other. She can call me B or whatever, which is the weirdest thing. For some reason, I don't know if it's because it's only a B name thing, but people are very comfortable just like referring to me as B.
Oh.
Who like barely know me.
Okay.
Anyways, so she had to cancel her IVF because she's on this show, basically. Because it was too stressful.
That's really sad. I mean, I figure by now she's frozen her eggs and like she's all squared away or frozen the embryos.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't believe how much I like Candace this season.
Well, true fans know.
Okay, got it.
No, I mean, I think you're living in the reality of that like so many people are living right now. People are loving Candace.
Okay.
Like it's a new thing. People are like, I always hated her, but now I like love her. And I don't know what it is. I think it was like maybe the Monique of it all. Like people really loved Monique too. And so her enemy was everyone else's enemy.
Yeah. But and she's also showing so much vulnerability.
Yeah.
And all the stuff with Chris. I mean, the producers like clearly are on their side. Like I don't know why they concocted this Chris thing that is so clearly untrue.
Well, sometimes your favorites do dumb things. I'm talking to you, Giselle.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's like I think people are liking Candy. Sorry, I keep on calling her Candy, but I think people are liking her because also like she's calling the shit out as it happens, and they're leaving all of that in. Where in past years they would probably take out all her fourth wall breaking.
In the previous episode, when she said "don't" something like "you're keeping my oh my god, my words," when she was saying when she spoke to the producer, you're keeping my fourth wall in, like shivers. Like I was like, ooh, now we're getting somewhere with this show.
I know. But the interesting thing is like this is happening to you, Candace, but then you are now going to be complicit in going against Karen and accusing her of walking out, which is also part of this conversation.
I thought one of the funniest moments to me was when she's talking about doing like the remix or whatever of the album and how her sister didn't know who Trina was.
I know.
She thought she was a singer.
I know. I loved that too.
That was hilarious.
So after this scene, we go over to like Mia's house and like she's having a little meal outside. They're just basically talking. It's like they're talking about her wellness, but then they're also building up this upcoming trip to Miami. But one thing that she said in a confessional, I think she was like, we don't eat without a centerpiece. Like, do you always have to have a centerpiece on your table to have a meal?
No.
Me neither.
Only at weddings.
We go over with Giselle and we're in the nail salon with the daughters, which is like that's when Giselle's at her best.
I could watch a spinoff of her and the kids.
I know.
I love really the daughters.
And honestly, like loop Jamal in.
Oh, yes.
When Jamal was doing his little when Giselle was doing her little impression of Jamal, that was comedy.
I thought it was funny what she was saying. like talking about herself in the third person. We don't know if they're going to be talking about the Darbys. We don't know if they're going to be a Giselle and Jamal, like the two most dysfunctional.
I know. It's so wild. And it's also funny. I wonder if like this could have been a throwaway scene, right? The Jamal of it all. Mm-hmm. But I wonder, he recently went viral because of a speech he gave about the Georgia election where he was talking about Herschel Walker. And it was like this, like, it went pretty viral, I think, like 2 weeks ago or a week ago. And I wonder if, like, they rushed to put in more Jamal because of that viral moment.
Wow.
I don't know. That's just, like, my fan theory, thinking that they're watching what moments go viral and decide to edit things in. But I don't know.
That's some fan fiction, I think, on your part.
Yeah, I know. Drag me. Okay, so Robin's at the law office. Did you think, as an SNL connoisseur, did you think the lawyer looked like Heidi Gardner from SNL?
I see what you're saying. That's hilarious. And also, unpopular opinion, am I the only person on earth who likes Robin?
Oh, no, I love Robin.
Oh, it seems like the internet, like, isn't a fan. They say she's boring, but like I would be friends with. Like I like her vibe.
She woke up this year. I feel like actually I think that might be you just listened to Las Culturistas, didn't you?
I did.
Because they were shit talking Robin.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, I like Robin a lot.
Yeah, no, I love Robin. She's the best.
I love that you're like, you were just listening to this exactly. I mean, I was, but also I've thought this separately.
I feel like we have like this weirdly similar media intake that like, I'm like, I know exactly what you're thinking about.
You heard Shane Douglas say this, didn't you? That's a deep cut. Jeff Lewis.
Jameson said it.
Oh
so we go to the tulip farm or something.
I think I blacked that part out.
Okay, we're in a tulip farm.
It.
It's like you can pick tulips and you can pick them with the bulbs in to like replant them weirdly.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cold out. And we're with Karen, Ashley, and Dr. Wendy.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It was a scene setting up Wendy being mad and setting up like the burn notice event or whatever it's called.
Yeah, the burn session.
The burn session, which is like if you're naming something that, it's like you're asking for trouble.
I also feel like I've seen that before. I feel like I've seen it actually on Potomac before. Maybe I haven't, but it just feels so familiar.
I'll tell you what it is. Jill Zarin and Alex McCord, season 4 of New York, over at Alex's place in Brooklyn. They wrote things down about each other and they burned them in her backyard, in her fire pit. It's like it's like a not popular scene, so people might have forgotten, but it's exactly that. The
recall that you just demonstrated is why you have a podcast.
It's an illness.
Wow, that was really impressive.
It's really disgusting. So yeah, the scene after that is the Candace scene with her sister talking about Trina, but then we get to the burn session, which like also in some ways is, maybe this is what you were thinking about. It's kind of reasonably shady 2.0, like in a lot of ways.
Yes,
because it's like we're just getting together to talk shit about each other.
And it's also, they were also in like they're in that same, were they in a winery? So it was very reminiscent also of like the Monique Candace fight, or like the room felt familiar. Just everything about it felt familiar. Wendy, I like Wendy fine. I don't understand why she's on this show.
I like her, but I agree with you. It feels like she's living in another reality, especially this season.
And also, I cannot stand Mia.
Oh, I like Mia. I think...
Tell me why. Give me 2 reasons why.
The delusion.
Okay.
And the beauty.
Oh my God.
No. But the delusion is like the kind of exact reason I like like there's certain housewives. We need delusion in the room, you know? And it's, I mean, like Karen has the delusion in a lot of ways, but Karen does it better. Obviously, Karen's like a top tier housewife.
Karen was barely in this episode.
I know, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But when she was in it, she was funny. It's like, it's almost, when we get to Salt Lake City also, it's like kind of why I like Angie Harrington so far, because it's like there's delusion. Like I don't really know what's going on. But I mean, Mia's not my favorite housewife. Of these women, she's probably last. But
I can't believe they gave her another season.
I know. She wasn't supposed to, which is interesting, but
she wasn't supposed to be back?
That's what I heard. I heard she was not invited back, but then she was.
Oh my God. Okay.
I know. Okay, so we're going to this event. We have Wendy and Ashley together in one car, and then we have all the other women in a Sprinter van.
Yes. I liked the scene of them in the car. I liked the way Ashley was sort of observing Wendy and just like listening to her speak. Like there was something, I was compelled in watching Ashley in that moment. Maybe it's because she just looked like extra beautiful in that moment. There's something. Can I tell you something?
What?
Ashley Darby is the most beautiful housewife that ever did it.
Okay. I mean, not going against you at all. I think this season she's extra beautiful too. There's something that's happening. I think it's like, it might be hair and makeup or something that's like bringing it to like level 10.100.
It's the hair, but also I think well, first of all, she's not pregnant for once. So we're
Mhm.
already 15 steps ahead. And I love the way she dresses. She dresses so nicely. Like whatever it is, like I think she definitely has a stylist. They probably all do, but like her stylist is like really working to her body in a way that like the others get like derailed.
Yeah. No, but I had the same thought of you, but when she was sitting down at the actual winery, I was like, she's being messy right now, but like she is beautiful.
Damn. Love it.
Giselle trips as they get out of the Sprinter van, which I laughed at.
Comedy queen.
And then she walked right by Wendy again, didn't acknowledge her, even though she was attending Wendy's event. The burn session is really corny.
Listen, I loved when both Giselle and Robin were like, we fucking hate you. We can't stand you. And like, good luck and God bless.
Yeah. And like Robin calling for Charisse for backup for her like story is hilarious. And I don't believe Robin was trying to like physically go at Wendy at all. But also her calling for Charisse when the tape actually shows Charisse like actually trying to back her up is funny. The evil spirit of the winery belongs to Giselle and Robin. Karen Huger.
I love it.
That is a quote. And then like Robin going back to the Sprinter van and just like taking off her shoes and putting on her Uggs and just sitting there while everyone else continues on.
I just love that they are both, Robin and Giselle are perfect for the show and perfect for Housewives because they are so natural on camera. I think that's also why I really like Robin is she's so easy to watch and natural on camera. And like, I'm not saying that like, oh, she's a better housewife than Karen. It's not about their housewife performance. It's about their actual like camera presence.
Yeah. And I think it's because I think Robin is so good because she's willing to show us the mess of her life. Like she will go to the lawyer's office and be like, yeah, Juan cheated, yada, yada. Giselle shows certain messes in her life, but won't show it all, which she gets caught. That's why she gets caught at reunions and has to just sit there silently. Like she wouldn't show stuff with Jamal and all that type of thing, but she will show messes in her life. Like she shows us her home, which
oh my God,
which I have defended in the past, but is a mess of sorts.
I once went to an event. It was like oh my God. Okay. Remember when Ramona kicked Giselle out of the picture?
Yeah. You were there.
I took that video. Yeah. So, yes.
This famous Squash the Beef from BravoCon 2019.
I could not believe that they made a BravoCon game out of that. Yeah, literally. I had the video and I'm like, I think this is something. And then I like sent it to somebody and they're like, oh, like this is something. They talked about it on the talk.
Yeah.
But anyway, why did I bring that? Oh, that was a quick way for me to reference, like, so I was at this event that Giselle was at prior to Ramona kicking her out of the video. She was at this event with one of the daughters to sell her book. And I chatted with her for this was like before Potomac was like
huge,
top of the heap. And like, I barely knew who Giselle was. I was just like chatting. And I mean, obviously like Ramona didn't even know who she was, but I just wanted to say like she was so normal and like down to earth. She was talking about how she like took the train down because it was in the Hamptons.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I forgot. Yes, that was an easy that's why I was just giving the that wasn't a flex.
Right. Also, by the way, that book has won awards or an award that we saw on one season of Potomac. Oh basically this whole thing is just zooming towards the Candace Chris thing being brought up again, and then like Ashley is in it and bringing up Mia, and like I love whenever they play the clip of Mia dancing at that party and Chris is not looking at her at all.
Yeah. They love playing that, and I mean the editors and the producers on this show are definitely they rival the old RHONY producers.
Yeah, agreed.
When they had something to work with.
Yeah, and then it just like the episode ends as a to be continued with Ashley claiming that Chris has been in other people's DMs.
I don't know where they're going with this.
And I'm like, Ashley, like, the name of the game on Housewives is to like pivot, and the perfect pivot was to be friends with Candace. So let's do that, please.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Let's move over to Salt Lake City. And I want to hear, you've alluded to it, but I want to hear your overall, you're not liking the show.
This was the first episode. This is the only episode that I watched to completion this season. And I only watched it because I knew I was going to discuss it with you. I find Salt Lake, and I know I'm in the minority, but I'm just being honest. I find it to be totally unwatchable. I mean, I think Winter House is more watchable than it, which is really saying something.
Right.
I think that it's so performative and fake to me, and I don't believe any of the emotions. Like, I can't tell what is real and what is not, if any. Like, I really can't tell what is going on. And I will say this episode definitely was entertaining. Like, I was not expecting like American Idol auditions. I was like, what the hell is going on? So I get that that's entertaining, but it's also, actually, I watched last week's episode where Whitney talked about the husband getting fired. But I don't know. These women just don't do it for me. I just don't care about them as people.
I have to agree with you to an extent, for sure. I actually started watching this episode last night, and I got kind of bored after the events of the American Idol audition, and I turned it off, and I rewatched the entire episode today because I was like, I have to talk about it. That being said, there are entertaining parts. There's like interesting things going on as far as like the show goes that like I think are interesting. I agree that a lot of the women feel like they're acting. Whenever Whitney and Lisa are in scenes together, specifically, it feels like they're doing local theater. Like when they're sitting in that park
yes,
with their sons, and their sons are like going around or whatever, it's like, what are we even talking about?
And it also feels like they're acting when they're in like they're in like, what are they called those in two for God, I don't remember when it's just like woman on woman, like those two-hander scenes.
Yeah.
And when they are in their individual scenes with like the husbands, it feels like they're doing bits, like Meredith and Seth in the tub, which granted was wild and like interesting in its own weird way, but it was a bit like, this isn't like real.
And that was Meredith taking like a meme that she became like famous for last year and like one-upping it.
Also, when she said Brooks is coming home soon, I really thought she said Brooks is coming out soon.
Oh.
I had to like rewind it. I was like, wait, what?
I think she said Brooks is coming out here or something.
Something to that effect, but I was like, whoa.
I think the coming out was there, but yeah. He talked about that on 2 episodes ago. He like talked about dating men.
Yeah.
Jen Shaw going, what the hell is Angie Harrington doing here? First of all, Angie Harrington to me is I'm like, I'm excited by her, but I'm like, what are we doing here? It also felt like in the first scene, like the American Idol thing, didn't she feel like drunk the entire time? Like she showed up wasted?
They all seemed out of it.
Yeah.
I like Jen referring to Harrington's husband as a fat elf on the shelf.
That was God.
That was
and then like Whitney referred to him, I think, as a grown-ass man, and they did a little lower third that said Chris Harrington grown-ass man, which was great. The new girls, like all the friends of, at one point during the audition thing, were all standing and talking to each other without any of the other women there. And it was so confusing because we don't know any of them well enough to be like, why are we like, why does this matter?
And half of them are named Angie. How are we supposed to keep this straight?
I literally had to write down Angie K wearing pink.
It's ridiculous.
And then Dana wearing jeans. I think that was Dana.
Yeah, I just don't care. It's so performative, and it's so like they're so desperate to be housewives.
Yeah.
And this is what I worry about, like with casting the new New York. I mean, I don't think Jenna Lyons is not going to do this. Like, Jenna Lyons is a real person, a professional person in the world. But that's what worries me about, like, recasting a brand new like Dubai. I didn't listen. I didn't watch any of it, but I can tell right off the bat that, like, they just want to be housewives, and like that turns me off.
Yeah. Wait, you mentioned Jenna Lyons, and I feel like we need to go on a little tangent right now because I meant to put this at the beginning of the show.
That I got her cast.
Yes, exactly. No, because I listened to your podcast recently, and you were talking. I think it was the Fortune Feimster episode where you were talking about this.
It's so funny. I never just like talk alone into the mic. Like, I don't do that. So it felt weird, but it felt necessary.
Yeah. So will you just explain? Because
oh God.
Okay, so when last night at BravoCon, when Jenna Lyons got announced as a cast member, I think I was shook. A lot of people were shook. A lot of people were like questioning, like, why would this ever happen? Why would she do this? Like, she's successful in the fashion industry. Like, why would she do something like Housewives? But then you release this episode where you have an explanation and you have receipts from a while ago.
Okay, so I'm gonna like really try to boil this down. If people, I explain it in like a tight 3 minutes at the start. If you go to my Fortune Feimster episode, I explain it and I play the audio clip in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me break this down. So basically, one of my best friends hosts a podcast called Diking Out. They did a live podcast taping with Jenna Lyons last December, so like a year ago.
Okay.
And around that time, so in the green room, somehow Roni came up and Jenna said to her assistant, oh my God, like, I would totally be on Roni. I want to do a gay Roni. And she turns to my friend and says, how do we make that happen? And my friend says, oh, well, like, we kind of know Andy Cohen's assistant, Darren Karp. And Jenna says, oh, I'm friends with Andy Cohen. I go to his Christmas party every year. And so they're like, okay, then maybe just go call your friend Andy. She's like, okay, yeah, I have to do that. And I was at that live taping. This was like a live event. They recorded the episode and live. So right prior to that, I had interviewed Luann. And this was like, it's a weird synchronicity type thing. In that interview with Luann, which, well, I'll speak to this later, but she's impossible to interview.
Yeah, she has talking points.
But in that interview, I said to her, what they really need to do is get a lesbian or a trans housewife on.
Oh, I remember that.
Like, I was saying to her, like, I wanted to get like some feet. You got to throw her curveballs in order to like get anywhere. And she responded to that, and like some like dumb news outlet like picked that up. So like that was floating out there, and they brought this up. They said Luann is on board with a lesbian housewife, and she said at the event, like, I would totally do Roni. I want to do gay Roni. So I think the synchronicity of all this stuff, okay, so that happened, and then cut to the Roni split is announced, and I reacted to that with those two friends.
Right.
And somehow during that, I remembered this whole Jenna Lyons thing. And somehow we were like, oh my God, they should totally just cast Jenna Lyons. Like, she wants to do it. And we succinctly, like, I had my friend tell the story of what Jenna said in the green room. And I clipped that part out and I put it on YouTube. It was kind of just like putting it out into the universe.
Sure.
Like, let's just like throw it out there. Because sometimes fun stuff is fun like that, to see if it gets any pickup or whatever. Like, this is a celebrity who actually wanted to be on Housewives, and all these months later, no one is more surprised than my friend. So you should have seen the group text.
Yeah,
when that news. I mean, we were on the floor.
I bet I was. Yeah, I love. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no. I just want to say the button to that story, and I'm sorry if I just bored your listeners with that, but the button to that story is my friend who has had more, I don't have any contact with Jenna Lyons, but my friend has been in sporadic touch with her. She DM'd her, because they've DM'd, and replied to like whatever the big like uncast announcement news, and said, my friend wrote, oh my God, dream come true. Jenna DMs back, it's because of you.
Oh my God. Credit where credit's due.
Credit where credit's due.
That's incredible.
So we're gunning for, seats at Watch What Happens Live when she's...
Oh my God. That's going to be so exciting.
I mean, isn't that crazy?
It's crazy. I still can't get over it. I already told this story, but I was like at dinner with friends. I took a break from BravoCon and like to go back to the late Watch What Happens Live taping, the early Watch What Happens Live taping where they were announced was happening. And I was like, all I could think about or talk about the rest of the dinner was Jenna Lyons. And I like even asked them, should I ask the waitress if she cares? Which I didn't. But it's just like, it's wild to me. It's wild to me.
I mean, I'm hoping that they really dig into like even like her discovering her gay story is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like she was married for like a long time, like didn't figure out she was gay until like yesterday. It's just like very interesting. And now she's like, I am a lesbian. It's not like, oh, I dabble dating women. She's like, no, like I have never had fulfilling relationships with men. And like sex is like talking like explicitly about like lesbian sex with sex with my friends on this recording. Like it's just great. So I'm hoping that Housewives will like go there. You're casting a lesbian, you better fucking go there.
They better. I mean, like that'll be so fun to watch. I can't wait. I'm so excited to see how it pans out. But to your point, I'm also nervous about some of the like influencer type people.
I'm also nervous that Bravo's going to make us hate Jenna Lyons in 2 years.
Oh, I know, but it happens.
It happens.
Back to Salt Lake City.
Oh my God.
we don't have to linger too much. But Lisa and John went to dinner, and Lisa ordered the like Vita tequila cocktail, and it's like so put on, as if like they don't know that you're the owner of the brand. It's so stupid. It's
like Kathy Hilton having her tequila in the chemo sap, whatever that
I
is.
Know.
Yeah.
I will say they also like barely sipped their cocktail, so I was like watching the cocktail on the table while they were talking because I was not interested in what they were talking about, and they barely sipped them. And then at one point when the food came, 2 more cocktails came, and they each had full 2 cocktails. It was wild. One thing she said that was funny in her confessional was just like, I'm very important to God, which like, okay.
I remember that line. Wow.
And then we get Jen and Coach Shaw, and like the only funny thing that came out of this was Regina Seacrest, because Jen Shaw thinks she has found her calling being like a Ryan Seacrest type on the fake American Idol in front of 5 people. And then we already talked about Lisa and Henry and Whitney and Brooks' little date, which was fun. And then we end with the Whitney and Heather thing, and it's like, Whitney,
is this fake? I can't tell what's real. It's so annoying.
I just think like Whitney is like living in this space where she's mad at Heather, but like for a storyline. It feels like she's being mad at Heather just to create drama.
So that's then going to carry over to Ultimate Girls Trip?
I guess so. And I think like Whitney like Lisa's finally being nice to her, so she wants to be a soldier for Lisa.
Oh, I could not care less about these people.
I know.
It's like I could talk about Jenna Lyons for hours. I could talk about Bethenny for hours. Like I could talk about like all this other. It's like I can't even deal.
The thing about these people though, it's like I genuinely like watching Lisa Barlow, Whitney, and Heather Gay, but it's like this particular episode, it did feel like they were doing Housewives theater, like they were acting.
Yeah. Yep. Radio Andy Theater.
Radio Andy Theater. Wow. Why don't we move over to the One True Queen and the Freak of the Week? And I don't know who Jess is going to name either. I gave it to the guest, so I'm just going to let her go. Why don't you go with the One True Queen first?
Oh, the One True Queen. Can I do the Freak of the Week first?
Yeah, I forget what order we usually do it.
I think you do the Freak of the Week first.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that.
As an honorary producer of this podcast, let's do the Freak of the Week.
Let's do that.
Okay. Listen, we talked about it at length up top, but truly there is no bigger Freak of the Week. Who has been a bigger freak this week than our very own Bethenny Frankel?
Yeah.
Okay. And just the period on the end of all of the sentence about Bethenny is rewatch podcasts like 90210, like how you have like Jenny Garth and Tori Spelling, or the Office podcasts. Rewatch podcasts, not to be confused with recap podcasts. Rewatch podcasts are popular because they have been off the air for over 20 years and it's nostalgic. Housewives is still fully on the air. And half the Housewives already are doing podcasts.
Right.
Like we said, Teddy and Tamara are doing like Reasonably Shady is a podcast. Like, I don't really get what we're doing that's new here, and I definitely think that in under 6 months she will exhaust the sort of pseudo celebrities, and it's going to be like Jill Zarin is going to be on there with her.
Right.
Which, frankly, that I'd be interested in tuning into.
Me too.
Oh, I do want to say, now I'm convinced Bethenny will do Legacy.
Yeah, I could see that.
She wants it.
I also think, on your point of this rewatch thing, she's not doing it in any order, and she's doing it in different franchises. It's like, do we need Bethenny talking about Real Housewives of Atlanta? Because if you can Google some tweets of hers from back in the day about Atlanta, and it's not great.
She used to call it trash, right? And
she used to use some really sus language.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh. So we may be looking at a Bethenny cancellation soon.
Well, yeah, hasn't she already been canceled in a lot of ways? I don't know.
Okay.
What about the one true queen?
Okay. The one true queen is none other than our very own Countess Luann, for shutting her down so swiftly and so eloquently, saying, quote, "It's pretty sad and pathetic that she has to resort to Housewives because all of her failed pivots."
I love a failed pivot. That is perfect.
Wow. And I messaged Danny this, or I tweeted the response, because everyone was freaking out. And I said, sort of commenting how I said I interviewed Luann like about a year ago. She's so difficult to interview because she can turn any subject into self-promotion.
Yeah.
She has this, and good for her. She's like hawking her shit, but it's very difficult and challenging as an interviewer to like engage in a real conversation. And Danny like struck and maybe he's even the one true queen too, is Danny Pellegrino himself.
Always the one true queen, yeah.
Because he had the insider tea that this podcast was happening, and somehow he was interviewing Luann to promote her Christmas stuff or whatever. Love that she's doing a retreat in Tulum, by the way. Like, can we go as press for these?
Yeah.
Podcasts? Like, I would love it. And he caught her off guard. Like, that's what you have to do with Luann. And I felt like he threw the ball and she like knocked it out of the park.
Amazing. Good job, Lou.
She's the one true queen.
She's the one true queen. Okay, Jess, where can we find you online? Just lay it all out.
Sure. My Instagram is JessXNYC, and my podcast is Hot Takes and Deep Dives. I have videos, highlights from interviews on the Instagram, also on YouTube. If you just plug all that in, it all shows up.
Amazing. And Jess is on the pre-show on our Patreon. We're going long, and we're talking about her Halloween with Real World star Danny Roberts, which is super exciting. You can find all of that and me and Dan's socials at comethroughqueen.com. Thank you so much, Jess. Really appreciate it.
This has been so fun. Thank you. I've loved it.
Bye.
Bye.
I wanna see ya come through, queen.